Good evening. It's not even afternoon anymore, I don't think. But we are here today. I know we missed you all on Sunday, but today we are here with a very, very special author. I am going to bring him in and he will introduce himself. Actually, is I had to practice saying his name because I will butcher a name up front, but at least I own that for myself. So if I say it wrong, I'm just going to tell you guys my special guest today is Mr. Furnace. So I won't have that issue. But Mr. Furnace is a wonderful author. And actually, I think I know him from his brothers, but however, because the brothers went to Wilberforce. But his book caught my eye, but I'm not going to tell the whole story because I do, sometimes tell everything, but I want you to hear it exactly from him. So welcome today. We're really glad to have you.
We're going to practice Mikhail.
Mikhail.
There we go. Good job. Gold star, Monique. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Yes, your book is like posted everywhere. So I am really, really honored that you are here today. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear more about it. It's like talking to you on the phone and doing research and learning more about your stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm like totally intrigued. But before we get into that, I really, really would like to know your journey to success. And I know success isn't your favorite word. So let's say your journey to where you are now. Because like I can't go on any social media site without seeing your Morehouse book. So it's something you're doing that's successful.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, for me, it started, I guess, graduating from high school. I had that wonderful opportunity to go to Morehouse College, from Los Angeles, California. And went to Morehouse College, majored in Spanish. Started out as a Spanish teacher. Taught for 3 years in Atlanta, Georgia. And there, it was from that point that, you start noticing how things that were changing, times were changing in terms of what we were learning in school. It was education was different from my age to when I became a teacher. And so I progressed through that stage, wanted to know more about life being bilingual as a Spanish teacher, but wondering what else is there to life other than just being a Spanish teacher. And so I became an interpreter. And that allowed me to broaden my Spanish skills and be able to communicate with people and apply some of the skills I learned at Morehouse in a different capacity. But the one thing that always stayed with me is my passion for education. And so between education, interpreting, and living in different places doing the same field, you look at, education from one aspect. What did we learn as young people? How soon were we exposed to Black colleges? And no matter how long I stayed in it, that's one thing I noticed, that a lot of students were not exposed to Black colleges until like maybe the 11th or 10th grade. And so you have these real life experiences where you go out into the real world and you come back to education and you bring some information back and you're still seeing the same trends. And you're seeing that even in different places around the U.S. that, over the years, the Black colleges were not being taught about in school. They weren't being spoken about. And you want to know, how do we broaden this perspective? How do we expose children to this wonderful opportunity that that all of us had? It seems like a lot of us are missing that biocultural component. So for me, that's kind of where it started. As we fast forward all the way to the pandemic, you sit back and you look, okay, what's missing right now? What is this part of society that we're not getting that is enriching us as people? And so I sat down and decided to write. Let me start with my experience, my Morehouse experience. Because I think first and foremost, we need some more positive stories about Black men. When we're not dying in every song. We need to have stories where we talk about our personal, our professional, and show that we're intellectual as well as athletes and entertainers. And it's to give a broader perspective, because I think as a professional, you kind of see over the years how there may be an anti-Black intellectual phase. Like we need to introduce people to that aspect of our nature, as opposed to just being entertainers, athletes, and singers. So I think we need to have that well-rounded capacity. So for me, my starting point was Morehouse, because it was a wonderful Experience. Like I said, graduating in '88 from Los Angeles, and then going to Morehouse. I'd never seen black in suits before, and that was a shock. A 17-year-old boy, young man, to go from LA, where we're the proverbial gang capital, where we're dressed in t-shirts and khakis, to a place where you may see 800 to 1,000 black men in suits. And not just at Morehouse, but it's also at Clark Atlanta University and Morris Brown. So the Morehouse experience was also a combination of, our interaction with Spelman, our interactions with Clark Atlanta University and Morris Brown. So when I say my Morehouse experience, it's based off of seeing so many different type of black people, specifically black men that were wearing suits, that were engineering majors, that were lawyers, that were aspiring to be lawyers, doctors, accountants, things that I had never really imagined before. And so when I became a teacher, these things always played in the back of my mind. And so the best way that I think you could teach this lesson is putting it in a book, providing students with the opportunity to see, okay, that, in spite of slavery, we weren't just, beasts of burden. We created things. We triumphed in spite of that degrading period in history. And that's something we need to celebrate. We need to celebrate what happened out of Reconstruction. We need to celebrate what happened, how we contributed in World War II, and how we are really patriots of this country to help this country stay afloat, how we've contributed to our communities, how we contributed to the United States. And so that's also another impetus for this book and the rest of the books that will come out this week.
Okay. So you gave us we was getting a bad signal, and I didn't want to interrupt your flow. Okay. But I think I fixed it because we can hear you now better, a lot better. Okay. But I did capture a lot of what you said, far as our young people getting the experience at an early age is what prompted you to write the book.
Yes.
And I love the book. I love the previews, and I'm going to drop those links in the chat so other people can enjoy them the way I do. Right. But I see the books behind you. The one in particular I'm talking about is the one in the middle. Yes, yes, that's the one that I have. Yes, that book is everywhere, whether you know it or not. It's on most of the social media sites that I'm on. And I've seen excerpts. I've seen you at book signings. I'm like, okay, he's everywhere with this. I need to get on that level. I'm
trying. This is guerrilla marketing. You kind of just figure it out along the way. Okay. And I think to your point about children's books, like I said, being a teacher, you see a lot of different literature. And it's not to be condescending or detract from other people's efforts, but it is to say that, there are certain lanes about the Black male experience that need to be repaved. And more importantly, we need to also create a space where, okay, for young people that want to pursue college, that want to go to Black colleges, because you just don't randomly go to a Black college. You really got to prepare. And so so a lot of what this book is about is like an amalgamation of my experience as a professional. You hear the stories about students, I want to go to a Black college, but I didn't find out about it till it was too late. I'd already applied and got accepted. It's more money here. My parents don't want me to go. But if we understand that the Black college experience is really a continuation of your home experience,
it is.
It may help families become more comfortable with the concept of sending their children away to school. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big proponent of that. I think that is one of the greatest experiences you can have because of the opportunity to break your comfort zone.
That's true.
Get to know different people and see that the hood is a bigger place. That even where you're from in your hood, then it may be somebody from Milwaukee, from Alabama, from Tennessee that identifies with everything you're about. And so that's the beauty of it. When you go someplace, you realize how small the world is. Or I don't want to say small, but how close and connected we really are. And so I think that's one of the motivations as well. I think for Black college graduates, we need to celebrate these stories. We need to tell these stories to our students, to our children, to our nieces and nephews. That's one of the things I always enjoyed, that when a student would ask, okay, what college did you go to? And they'll have some type of connection, whether it's to a cousin or a friend, or they heard about it. But there's also the point that, with these series of books, we want to illuminate the successful Black people that attended Black colleges and show that these people are right in front of you. It's to let's lift this veil up and say, oh yeah, let's make the connection between success and attending a Black college, because realizing that people tend to detract by saying, oh, the world is not just black and white. It depends on whose world you're living in. But I think in terms of certain places and certain aspects of what this Black college experience does in terms of building pride, in terms of building confidence, in terms of establishing a lifelong connection of family and friends, that, it's unspeakable. You just really can't you really can't, even though I said it, it's really something I can't put a finger on. And that's, it maybe sound hypocritical in that aspect, but you really can't understand what it's like to just go somewhere and realize, oh damn, I didn't realize I've known you for 30 years.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that, and I also can see that. I mean, this my experience at the HBCU definitely changed my life, so I can't agree with you more. Mm-hmm. But in getting to know you and doing like the basic scheduling, and you even mentioned it today, is like you majored in Spanish, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
And I was like, this is a Black man majoring in Spanish.
Claro que sí. Pero la cosa es que en Los Ángeles, cuando yo era niño, siempre oí español, porque mi papá trabajaba con muchos latinos. You got that? So, but sometimes people want to find out if you do speak Spanish, so you have to actually show. But yeah, so being from Los Angeles, and I think, you know what, that kind of lends into your success, to your topic of success, because for me, that's probably one thing I know that, I was born speaking English, and to know that, the challenges the challenges that you do face in learning another language. And I speak from that experience as a teacher, as someone who's taught the language and someone who learns. I've never lost sight of the fact that it's very challenging to be bilingual and to learn another language.
Wow.
But my process is different than how it's applied in school. And that's the gray area and the slippery slope we really haven't learned to rectify and work around in schools. But for me, I just was always, fascinated by it. My father always worked around Latinos. He played in basketball and softball league. So, my dad's name is Ben, so they would call me Little Benito. And I would just run around. And then, when I was, in college, I didn't get an opportunity to go abroad and study in a foreign country.
Wow.
So I worked in East LA delivering beer. Okay. And I didn't like it because I had to get up at 3 a.m. I'm like, I'm on summer vacation, dude. I just got in from the club at 2. You want me to get up and go to 3? So I had to cut out the partying, get up and go to work. But it turned out to be one of the greatest blessings ever, because when they found out I was a Spanish major, they wouldn't speak to me in English. And so and if you're not familiar with LA, you can live in LA and not speak English. So if you're working in East LA, Hollywood area, all day, 8 hours a day, they're just hitting me, and some of the drivers didn't speak English. So that allowed me to work on interpreting and translating skills. So I didn't know back then the kind of skills I was working on, people skills, interpreting, translation, learning how the differences between words. Because even as you speak Spanish, one word means one thing to a Mexican, which can mean something else to a Cuban.
Oh, because it's different dialects.
Different dialects. So, even like if you're from Chicago, they may call them steppers. Well, when my homies was calling them steppers or J's, I knew what they was talking about. If I went home and tried to say steppers in LA, they're like, dude, what you stepping? What you talking about? Hey, we ain't playing basketball. So it's language, the words have different meanings depending on where you are from. So for me, that aspect of working in a community where I had to speak Spanish, being thrust in it, into the real Spanish and not the academic Spanish, was a blessing. So when I went back to school, I went from the low totem pole to like, oh, and that's when my confidence started growing. So for me, my success started in my process to learning Spanish. And I guess for me, working in that vacuum, that's where I've always felt my wheelhouse, my comfort zone, in terms of, okay, you're able to learn a language and how do we make this connection with other people? But once again, teaching Spanish and learning Spanish are two different things. And I always tell people, you can't teach somebody how to learn language. I can show you how to speak it. I can show you what to do with it. But, learning a language is like being an athlete. You got to shoot 1,000 jump shots a day, 1,000 free throws. And sometimes you got to get in the mirror and walk around and talk to yourself in Spanish because I don't have any Spanish speaking friends.
Oh,
and you
wow.
got to telenovelas, and you got to have a vivid imagination and try to play in and say, how do I step into this place?
That is so cool. Like,
so it's really, you got to have an imagination and really be willing to get out of yourself and really be able to say, you know what, and think like a child. Because, children, when we're like 1, 2, 3, we're sponges. We absorb a lot. We don't know the word no. But as adults, the older we get, our ego and pride gets in the way. And so that inhibits our ability to learn. But if we learn it like a child, it's way easier.
Wow. Because when you first said that, I was like, he's a black man. He majored in Spanish.
Yeah.
You know how like, and then I'm guessing, from what you said, that you are an interpreter.
Yeah, I've been an interpreter and a translator. And so that's the thing about it, we don't realize that in America, the black people who speak English, it's more black people speak Spanish and French around the world that probably speak English. Okay. So when you look at, other places, if I walk in, so when I lived in Kansas and I was working as an interpreter, people didn't know me as a black guy or an African American. They knew me as, oh, he's the Cuban. He's a Dominican. He's a Panamanian. Because when you walk in and people who speak Spanish from those regions, they're very comfortable with seeing, or they're predisposed to seeing black people speak Spanish. But in America, it may be an anomaly, where it becomes, you may not become black. Well, it's all shades of Africanity, and we just have to make sure that, understand that the slave ship just didn't stop in the United States. It stopped in different different ports, and there were different people involved in it. So, recognizing that, through the diaspora, that we have different languages that we're accustomed to. And I think the thing about being an interpreter, you're seeing, black people speak French, black people speak Arabic. So for me, it was an enriching experience, and just seeing the cultural diversity and the commonality of it all. Like it's still the same energy.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
But that is pretty cool. I was listening and looking at questions. Mm-hmm. You do have people who are interested in purchasing the Different World booklet.
Different house.
Different house.
Well, I'm glad you caught that. Thank you. Thank you. But you know what? I think that's important that, for me, yes, it is that's the nostalgia. Because when you think about it, that's the favorite show. And that was so many memories when we were in college. People would actually sit around and have watch parties. Like you would go on the Spelman and you'd be in the lounge and people having watch parties there. I lived off campus, so I didn't have those issues. We just having watch parties of A Different World, Living Color, Cosby. We just watched all these shows, and those are highlights of the Black college experience for me, and among other things. From the more generic, socially responsible level, but just to see how they represented us. And it showed a level of intellect. It showed that we can have class. It showed we can have some hipness to us. It showed that we can be smart. The proverbial swag. I think all of those things, to see that even now in 2020, people are watching it still. To know that, even 5 years ago, 2 years ago, I had students that would watch Different World. So for me, the whole Black college energy, I tried to embody this in the book. I tried to take different experiences that I had, from a personal experience, like my first time coming to Atlanta, A Different World, what that energy looked like to see, young Black people on TV in college. And it's even funny that people, like my brother has a Hillman shirt and people will swear Hillman's a real school. Like, no. So it's
I have some colleagues like that.
Yeah.
That thought that was, I'm like, no, it's but Different World is hands down my favorite show. I have literally watched every episode. Yeah. And when I seen the artwork, I was like, oh, that's what he meant. But I love it. But we do have people that are interested in getting the book. I know I usually get one before the show, but I'm like, I done watched every preview of your book. I have it already, so it's like, but that your first book, or
yes, that is our first book. So Keon made me the guinea pig for the company. A Different House, my Morehouse Experience is the first in a series of children's books that would celebrate Black colleges. As you can see to the, what's that, my right, the second book that will be coming out is Legends of the House. And that one is more focused on the alumni and the contributions they made. Given the aspect that there are certain challenges that teachers are facing in the school system about what we can and cannot teach, I think it's important, once again, if we can't talk about slavery and the challenges that certain institutions pose to Black self-determination, what we can do is celebrate our successes in spite of those challenges. What we can do is talk about how, Black people who went to Morehouse College or Wilberforce University or Howard University or Tuskegee University, how these institutions bred citizens of the world that, contributed to the making of America, to keep America safe, that made products that made America run properly, that, made sure whether you're a Surgeon General or you read an Ebony magazine, or Jet magazine, you had some representation of yourself there. So I think it's important we highlight the contributions of Black people who went to Black colleges, because once again, it's to remind people of the greatness and the options you have, that if you go here, you will be continuing in a long line of greatness, whether it's at Morehouse or Wilberforce or Howard. So the second book that will be coming out is Legends of the House. And then the third book that will be coming out this year is Legends of the Force, which is a tribute to Wilberforce University, being one of the oldest Black colleges in the world. Founded in 1856. So it's important that we recognize.
Right.
Hey, what? Am I right?
I said you better get that history right.
Right, and I think and so we have to realize the importance of these schools, especially we talk about the Underground Railroad, but where did it go?
It went all through the old campus of
exactly, and so we need to know that. People need to know that, okay, Harriet Tubman just didn't wander. You know what I'm saying? Some people went straight to Wilberforce. Some may have veered to other schools. So it's important that we capture this history so that if you can't teach it in school, your children can go to school. Your children can go to school and lead the conversations and control the conversations and embolden the conversations with dialogue and information that challenges the status quo. We're at a stage that, we don't necessarily have to rely on the system just to give us information. We can pull that information from different resources and learn to network and learn to figure out how this applies, to where we're going in the future.
Okay. Well, if you have been following along in the chat, I did put all of the links to where you can either find the book, you can preview the book like I did. Very, very successful family, because your whole family, right? To my knowledge, everybody wrote a book in your family just about, brother-wise.
Yeah, well, Keon's pretty much. Well, actually, it started out, funny thing. It started out way back in the 80s. I think Rasha won, the surprise was Rasha winning a writing contest. We were like, yo, Rasha won a writing contest? I didn't think, I was far from it then. But then Keon took over. And then Keon just started writing, and I used to mess with him when I came home from college because he's sitting on the porch reading poetry, writing poetry. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he had crates and composition books of poetry.
Oh, wow.
So fast forward to the pandemic, he put out his first book after the snap. I think you can see that right there over my shoulder.
I have that one.
Right. So once again, it's important that we tell stories that celebrate our experience and humanize our experience and give us options for dealing with all kind of emotions we have. So I think that's a very powerful book. We're going to re-release that book on his own label, Magnificent Brothers, to make sure that we continue with this.
So you all have your own label as brothers?
Yes, Magnificent Brothers Press. Self-publishing our own titles.
That's awesome. That
Yeah,
you
we
get to
figured
work with
that.
your brother and you're creating a legacy as well.
Right,
That's,
right.
that's awesome. I'm sorry
And we
to
want to be able to tell our own stories. Once again, the issue is going to ask people to print your book. Can you print my stuff for me?
Mhm.
That's kind of old hat now. We want to get away from that. We want to be able to write what we want to write, tell the stories we want to tell. And in the event that we take manuscripts, we want to be able to have a certain lane and a certain niche that we can get into. And that's uncompromising. I think, once again, it's more than just fashion and the intangibles. We have to have an academic and a historical base to this Black history, Black lifestyle. And, for those that are interested, the stories are important. Other cultures chronicle their stories. Other cultures have a great library, great work to show where they've gone, where they're going, where they've been. And we have to, start getting in that lane and having more books out there. There are a few titles out there now that are doing that. But, the more the merrier. We need to inundate that area with information about our greatness and not just the hopelessness that we've dealt with over time.
Wow. So that what I would like, and I know you're probably like, why is she about to ask me to do this? I really, really want, and even if you are on here, like, share, comment. This is an amazing author. Actually, it's a family of authors. I had his brother on when we first started last year. And then when I realized that that was your brother, I was like, oh, I have to get him on because I like this book. And I like the mission that he's talking about. So what I really would like for you to do, if you don't mind, could you share us some excerpts from your book?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
No
You know, made my day.
Okay. And like I tell you about, I'm a reader. I'm not a slammer, so I'm going to read. So this first piece, I tried to write the book from 3 different phases: the founding, student life, and alumni aspects. So I'm going to give you a piece that's from the early part of the book that talks about the founding. Up from the underground to a space that was vacant, patiently waiting for the acres and a mule as a payment. Man, can you believe the ways of this nation? It's like the actions were shocking and intentionally flagrant. Smelled a scent called freedom, so vibrantly fragrant. Had to keep the odor covered within the walls of a basement. A church called Springfield was the veiled foundation where we were tethered to ministry instead of those cumbersome bracelets. A path had to be carved. Reverend White couldn't forsake it. He, Edmund Turney, and an ex-slave, Richard Coulter, helped pave it. In 1867, they started building us a road to greatness, built off sheer will and a theological basis. Who would have known the offspring would be intellectually salient, and an institute in Augusta would become the cure for the ailment? This next piece speaks to, as I mentioned earlier, my experience first going down when I first arrived, and you see, Black people in school. Like I like between Morehouse, Clark, Spelman, Morris Brown, the experience of seeing young Black people in school in suits and ties with briefcases, it was a shock to me. It was a welcome shock to my system. So I wrote a piece that reflected that experience. The AUC was the place for people of my hue. Different pot, same stew. Africa was the rule. Wolverines and Panthers clicking up, who knew? Along with Jaguars and Tigers would be snug in a shoe. Nothing I'd ever seen, you would think it's taboo. After touching down from Cali on a plane I flew. Known as Nacho, never gangbanged though. Made some homies from the town, Beham and Chicago. Can't forget about Detroit and the DC Metro crew. NYC, Jersey, and Louisiana people were true. Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Mississippi dudes. Tennessee, Florida, and Texas all fell through. Ohio, Missouri, South, and North Carolina blue. Shout out to the brothers from the islands and the motherland too. All brought their flavor and style that elevated our school. It made being Black exceptionally cool. New sons of the day is what I'm talking about. Everyone was welcome to come to the house. And this last piece I can read It's something a lot of people talk about, but not a lot of people experience. And a lot of people experience in different aspects of it. And it got big when it got mentioned on Different World or in rap songs. And this is the social aspect of school. Before we did it for the gram and the digits could tweet, we used to get down in the park to the beat. A crew from DC had a vibe unique, where we could all go, end of year party, a stress release. People came from afar just to get a little piece. Word up, even made the transfer rate increase. And then a man on a hill on it did speak. I think Freddie and them was trying to creep to a party in ATL, better known as Freaknik.
Wow. That is, I was sitting there visualizing the things that you read. I was like, okay, maybe I like that.
Here's a picture for you. So here's the Freaknik picture.
Oh my God, that's in the different house.
Yes, that's in the book.
Oh wow, I love that.
Okay.
The illustrations are amazing because, well, I'm not going to and talk about what I my.
And so the cover too, like someone asked me about the cover on the back cover on the page. See?
That is nice.
Yeah. So the back cover also reflects different things, like I said, with the cover, it's the nostalgia of a different world, the good times we had from that. But the back cover reflects the energy of Atlanta. So when I got down there, the Falcon carrying the basketball reflects Deion Sanders was in Atlanta at the time. And so they had Deion and Dominique Wilkins were in Atlanta around the time. So they had different clubs. And so that was the aspect, and they were flying high above the city. People go to Prime 21 or Club 21. One of the first clubs I ever went to was called the Mill, the Excelsior Mill. And that was a club. Freshman, we got away freshman week. I was long story. But we ended up at a party. I think we took a cab or we walked to a party, and it was called the Mill. Oh, and Lord. I heard a song. That was the first time I ever seen Atlanta lifestyle. Mind you, I'm from LA. We dance differently in LA, especially in '88.
Right.
Than how they dance in Atlanta. I'd never seen anything like that before. And then one of the first songs I heard was Set It Off by Strafe.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, it's a wrap. If this is what life is going to be like for the next 4 years. Right. And so you also have the backdrop of the city on the back where it just shows the skyline, because for me, Atlanta has grown so much since I first got down there in '88.
Oh, wow.
And so just to see the skyline and just even the faint strip of MARTA that's passing through the skyline, because we could take from the AUC, you could take MARTA all the way across the city. And so you're riding across the city, you see everything. So MARTA was also a good experience because you met a lot of people, a lot of experience. You see a lot of things. You go through Underground, 5 Points. So it was a whole lot of experience. And once again, from LA, if I didn't go to a black college, I would have never been able to ride a public transportation, ride a train like that. We just had Rough, Tough, and Dirty, RTD, that we caught in LA. But Atlanta, you had MARTA, and we jokingly called it moving Africans rapidly through Atlanta. But, but we used it a lot. But that was the whole experience of it.
What did you say you called that?
Not me. It was known as moving Africans rapidly through Atlanta.
Lord have mercy.
Because you would see, but that's Atlanta. That was the beauty, that anywhere you go, you would see some brown folk. You have a good conversation. You would see something entertaining. Like I said, it was an enriching experience for me. So I decided to put those things that made my experience worthwhile, things I hadn't seen before, and then the final image is 2 young students looking up in the sky, looking toward the future. So I think, it's, I'm a collage type guy. I think I see different prisms, see different things. So I just wanted the artwork to reflect not just one emotion, but just something that somebody may gravitate to. I don't think that, it's my job to tell you what to think, but to provide some options that may spark you and may relive your nostalgia and help you tap into something that you think was precious and special to you.
That's good stuff. I mean, definitely. I know that was probably, like you said, from Los Angeles to Atlanta. I think one of the things on campuses that make HBCUs unique is that it is a melting pot, literally. Like you will find somebody from everywhere across the world at an HBCU.
Yeah.
And people don't really shed light on that. And that's why I was so amazed about your book, is that you mentioned a lot of those things.
Right.
You know, even if you didn't write it out, the pictures displayed that. And I was like, see, I told you, I seen the virtual one. I don't
Exactly.
have
And see, that is the academic component built in. It's, for younger kids, it's a geography lesson. Can you identify these places? Can you find where these are? Because, for me, as I said, my experience as a teacher went into this book. How do we raise the intellectual level of our students? Can we expose them to words that are a little bit longer than the quote unquote sight words? My philosophy is, if you can log into a cell phone, you should be able to pick up this book and read it. And if you can't read it, you can have an adult read it with you, because I think it's important that fathers and adults, period, read with their children. That's one of the early parts of literacy, and how children get involved in literacy if they have their parents, and and especially if a dad can be involved. So that was one thing when I worked in elementary. We used to put together literacy packs.
Wow.
And it's like you put together a literacy pack, and another aspect of this is there are more than just Black kids in the school system, and there are a lot of immigrant kids from other countries. What are the images that they see of us as Black people? Do they know that we go to school? So it's also having information available to young people who are new to the country that may not be familiar with Black lifestyle, Black culture, and realize, oh, it's more than just, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, rap songs and all this. And those are great fellas, but they have to also see us for our business acumen, our intellectual acumen, our social convictions, our moral values. And that's what these books are intended to do, to give a more well-rounded value of who Black men are in America.
That's true. And I know you mentioned you're an educator, and I always ask this question, no matter who's on here, especially if it's a Black male. At what age did you experience your first Black educator as a male?
I mean, my daddy was my first teacher. Let's start there. So from birth, my daddy was my first teacher. And you got your uncles and grandfathers. But I think I had a PE teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a PE teacher. Now, high school, I was fortunate. High school, I had a lot of Black male teachers. We had a Black principal, Dr. Freeman, Mr. Matthews, Mr. Brownlee were the administrators, Mr. Searles, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Bias, Coach Combs. I had a lot of Black teachers in high school. I was fortunate in that aspect. Now, as an elementary school, I went to a Catholic school, so I had nuns.
Oh, wow.
Nuns and Black women.
That would have to be difficult.
And I think my only Black male teacher there was the PE coach. I think that was Coach Lemon, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow. That seems like that's a definite challenge.
Right. And so, and those are things you see in education too, because when I was a teacher, I also coached basketball. And so you don't really have a lot, most of the coaches are PE coaches. So you look at, for me, I looked at coaching and teaching in a different aspect, because, a lot of times they don't expect the players to have high, GPAs, or, they don't expect coaches to really promote an academic aspect. They think, okay, just roll the ball out and find your success. But for me, it's always bigger, because when the knee goes out or something happens, you can always have that intellect. You always have something that,
backup plan.
If it's not school, having some form of critical thinking where you can strategize on where to go in case the legs can't allow you to jump.
That's fair.
College may not be for everybody, but everyone should be a critical thinker. And as a Spanish teacher, that's one thing I try to impart, create situations where let's think critically out of this. And sometimes, it works, sometimes it don't. So just do what you can do.
Well, that's impressive. I know before we went on air today, we had like a brief discussion, and I want to kind of revisit that conversation. What would you tell a African American male that, or how can I word it different? how would you tell a person that going to an HBCU is a significant experience if they're trying to straddle the fence between going to a PWI or a HBCU?
Well, I think the first thing is to inquire what are their goals. Obviously you want to have the cultural experience of going to a Black college, and I would tell them the biggest thing is the comfort. It's the peace of mind. It's to know that no one's going to assault you on campus. No one's going to threaten you of being Black on campus. That no matter what you are, who you are, what you do, it's cool. That there's a space for you in every nook and cranny of a Black college. That you don't, have to try to hide. It's a welcome experience. I mean, when you break down the capacity, and I think for me, it's so many layers. Let's look at the motivating area. For me to know that I can go to school and learn with people who, man, these brothers are challenging me. That's motivating. We get challenged in the street in so many aspects, but how many times are we challenged in the classroom? How many times are we challenged from an intellectual standpoint? How many times it's a place where, if you want to be disciplined, you can be disciplined, but you're going to get the structure there where, you're going to have brothers that's going to hold you accountable. You're going to have people that are going to support you. You're going to have people that are going to push you and get you to do things and step out of your comfort zone from a more positive, productive aspect. I think the cultural component goes without saying. Any place you can be, have enhanced Blackness, as I like to look at the college experience. Being able to go deeper into the culture, being able to see it from the classics, from a economic standpoint, network with future leaders. So the reasons can go on and on, but I think succinctly, if we really want to change the structure, we really have to learn with ourselves and be able to take that information and create our own space in the world. And it doesn't mean that just because we go to a Black college, we have to go out and try to appease and make the other world happy. It means that we've learned these skills and we should be able to go out and create our own opportunity with the network we've created or gathered from this HBCU experience. So I think for me, it's just a matter of, the pride, the support, and just being able to be you.
I like that. Really, really like that. Because that's something that a lot of our young people really don't value, is that you can genuinely be yourself. You don't have to go out and try to fit into a mold that's not created for you.
Right.
I'm glad.
And more importantly, you don't have to deal with people trying to be like you. That's false friendships. I think those are the things that also impact, I think, the college experience is the ability to, comfort is not just around other people, amongst yourself. You have to be able to transition and move in different spaces. But what complicates that are the disingenuous actions of other people who try to feign friendship, who try to feign support. That, just because we listen to the same music doesn't mean that I'm going to think you cool.
True.
That don't make us cool. And that's the simplest form of thinking that that's how we identify. Mm-hmm. It's deeper than that. So I think, it's knowing that, you're going to have some very genuine, sincere relationships. Now, that's not to say that, no place is perfect. You're going to have whatever problems at an HBCU that you're going to have in your neighborhood, that you're going to have at Harvard, that you're going to have at any other PWI. But what's different is the challenges you have at those institutions won't be there.
That's true.
You just got to deal. You're going to deal with the same issues in the hood and wherever you are, in the hood, the city, the burbs. You're going to deal with those wherever you are.
That's true.
But at a Black college, it's so much more like, oh, okay, I ain't got to pretend. You don't have to pretend.
You don't. It's a somewhere.
The relationships with the teachers are totally different. Like, I remember one time I was having problems in pre-calculus.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't like cheese. And the only way that I would get tutored from this teacher is if I ate cheese.
Oh wow, she had a creative method then.
Yeah, yeah, it was a dude. It was a dude.
Oh
And you had to
my
go in, you had to sit down there before you pick a cheese. You had to have some cheese because at the end of the day, it was about an open mind he was
God.
trying to get at. And obviously, I had a blocked mind in pre-calculus. So after I ate the cheese, I got all the way. Then all of a sudden, I understood what was going on. Like, this dude tricked me by eating cheese. And so there's different relationships. There was another time where, this is when I was a Spanish major. I didn't like to. I had to learn how to socialize. So the teacher would have these outings on Friday nights, and I kind of thought it was odd that why do I want to go hang out with a teacher? But long story short, the information was relayed to me because I was trying to establish a connection somewhere down the line, and they were like, "Oh, why don't you come hang Friday?" I was like, "What?" Well, since I want to establish that connection, let me go hang out Friday. That's how you start getting the grades. You're like, oh, I got to go hang with the teacher. So that's another aspect of the Black college experience, the one-on-one relationships. It's being able to go sit down in an office and have a one-on-one relationship and somebody say, here, have some cheese and expose you to something else, or play a chess match, or teach you how to speak the language away from the technical aspect. So it's so many relationships you can build. And even with some of my friends who are college professors now, they speak of those relationships. So it's not an anomaly, but you just see that that's deeper than, you kind of look at it like high school teachers sometimes have that relationship with students. It's a different kind of relationship because they're taking you to the next level. It's not just being a guardian and taking care of, oh, you all right, baby, you are good. We're trying to get you through, right? Exactly. College is like, let's prepare you. Let me show you how to do this. And it's a whole nother level of mentoring, whole level of relationships, a whole nother level of learning how to network.
It is. And I still call on some of my college friends and people who just knew of me from that era, and they still today. So who was the professor that was the most influential for you? I'm not trying to create.
You know what? That's deep because I liked all my. So this is the thing about it. Okay, honestly, and I think I just admitted this. I didn't really start speaking in class at Morehouse until my junior year. Because if you didn't say the right thing, somebody was gonna cut you up. So I really didn't start speaking in class until I got good in Spanish. Once I got good in Spanish, I was like, okay, I'm about to say something in every class now. But probably one of the most memorable teachers, there are several, Dr. Parker, who was a brother with an afro, taught religion and philosophy. That brother was deep. From my Spanish department, there was Dr. Agee, was his lifelong mentor, just always been there when I needed advice. Dr. Cyrus, Stanley Cyrus. This was a brother from from Grenada. And he was a very humble dude, spoke 5 different languages. And he made a big impression on because, granted, the first brown person I saw speak Spanish was a Panamanian jockey. And in between that time, the next Black person I saw speak Spanish was Dr. Cyrus. And that was just, I'd never seen anything like that. Then to know that he spoke French and Portuguese and another language, okay, just to know that then Black people are polyglots. And these are things that start building in your mind. Then you turn to find out he was an author. He translated poems from English to France and from English to French and French to English. And so I picked up a book randomly. I don't know if I can say the book title on here, but it was a book, but he translated a series of poetry. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know it. And it turned out he was also part of a liberation movement in Grenada. So it was really fascinating, this man's story. So I think those 3 are probably the most impactful experiences I had from teachers offhand. But like I said, Dr. Parker, even though I wasn't a religion or philosophy major, what I remember about that class had a mood, had an energy that was thick. And when he spoke, I kind of like, I don't know what just happened. I know I got to do some work. I have to read something. I got to think about something. But somebody, it was just, I just never heard anybody speak like that. The elocution and, the orators that were there was just really incredible. So, I mean, but Dr. Cyrus and Dr. Ag, they looked out for me in the Spanish department, but just from a just real impactful, like, I still don't understand what happened in that religion class. I'm like, but I do remember the energy that was there. And Dr. Parker was an incredible speaker, teacher at that time. Yeah.
Wow. That you seem like you are really passionate and really appreciative for your Morehouse experience. Like most of us HBCU grads, is always a life-changing experience.
Right.
Definitely, I didn't go to the OC, but my experience is just like yours, a total different world.
Yeah.
And
that's what I found too. That talking to people, it's the same experience.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I mean, whether Morehouse, Wilberforce, Howard, Tuskegee, it's always everybody who I've talked to in writing these books. It's like, wait a minute, sounds like the same thing I went through.
Exactly. And when you said math, oh my God, that was my thing. I didn't learn math until I got to Wilberforce. My roommate was a tutor for the basketball team, and I was like, "Hey, you know how to do this? You know how to do these equations?"
Yeah,
it's never been my cup of tea. And the way she broke it down, and the way that the professor broke it down, because I've always been honest. If I can't do something, you gonna know it, and you gonna show me how to do it too.
right.
And I figured, hey, you tutoring the basketball team and everybody else, you can tutor me. You stay here. So
right.
That and like most kids, math is their Achilles heel. So I get it. So I'm really, really grateful. But got good news and bad news. Good news is I totally appreciate you being on today, telling us about your books. And I'm trying to figure out what the book is on this side, the green book, because I'm like, he got all these books behind him.
The green book is Legends of the Force. That's going to be the Wilberforce story.
Oh, yay. Okay.
So Wilberforce is third in line.
Okay, then. So you got your covers already. And then on the other side, I see Martin Luther King, I think. I might be wrong.
So this one here, so the cover on Legends of the House has Martin Luther King, Benjamin Mays, and Maynard Jackson.
Got it.
And the purpose of Legends of the House is also to highlight other leaders besides Martin Luther King. But even as we talk about Martin Luther King, who are the people that helped make him?
Okay.
And I think that's important to the people who are affiliated with Martin Luther King, that helped made the struggle, helped made his mission more important. Sometimes we forget about the tendons and ligaments. We always look at the legs, but we forget about the tendons and the ligaments and the arteries. Those are the things that keep you healthy. And sometimes we got to pay attention to the tendons and the unknown people, the people that don't get the publicity, and say, okay, this is the real story. These are more facts that make Black history or the Black experience richer. Martin Luther King did a lot of wonderful things, but that seems to be the only person they're talking about nowadays. So we need to understand other people, especially from different institutions, and especially with Wilberforce. Fascinating stories, fascinating alumni and experiences they had. And I hope that, when those come out, you will value those and appreciate those. But I think the experiences from Wilberforce alumni, it's something that we need to talk about. We need to celebrate and recognize that whole story and how it came to be and how it stood the test of time. And it's been resilient, for lack of a better term. And that's probably the most important term, resilient, to withstand time, the changes, the weather, all the things over time that have happened without giving too much away. So
the tornadoes,
fires, war, so it's like all those things, we need to celebrate those.
I'm waiting for it to come out. I think it's going to be an exciting experience. And if you need any information from that, I'm willing to help. My parents are both alum. My aunt and uncle are alum. Yes, okay. I'm what you would call a Wilberforce child.
Right. Was that a legacy?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that wasn't my first choice, but it was the best choice. As I look back at it, it's so many wonderful things that happened there while I was there.
And see, we need to make that the first choice. That's to be something that you should know you're going to do from third grade on.
Selenice was saying hello, everyone.
Hello.
And she has two boys, and I know that's always a conversation about school, and especially for our young African American boys. They sometimes don't get it. They see the schools on TV and think that's where they're supposed to go. So if you didn't catch this full podcast today, I encourage you to go back and review and relook at it, like, share, comment, do all of those things. But most important, listen to the content from Mr. Furness. He has dropped so much knowledge in this short time. I totally hate that it doesn't even seem like it's been an hour, because we just been having casual conversation about different things in the educational system. And he is an educator. What has impressed me is that he's fluent Spanish. I understood what he said, probably because I live in San Antonio, Texas. But
es importante, ¿verdad? Hoy día necesita entender otro idioma, ¿verdad? Es muy importante.
It's very important to know, because I always had that complex that if somebody is speaking a foreign language, I think they're talking about me. So I have to know.
Yeah. And they probably think the same thing about you. They probably think you talking about them. So you gotta get people gotta get off of that. Nobody, they ain't thinking about you. They just trying to get some cereal. They try to get some milk, some cereal, and get home and watch the game.
So yeah, she said, Miss Wood said her and both her sons watch it, so they enjoyed it today.
Okay, hey Miss Woods.
So if you could talk to your, if you could give a positive word, because we are, if you haven't heard, we're doing a HBCU send off here in San Antonio. Last weekend I was in Dayton for theirs, Dayton, Ohio, for their send off, which was spectacular, standing room only. And really all this is about is setting our kids up for success while connecting them with mentors or people from the college. But on August 1st, we will have ours. West Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania will have theirs on the 31st. And so what we're trying to do is, like you said, create that exposure, create that environment to where people are knowing about our schools. People are knowing that they don't have to go somewhere where they probably won't be accepted. They'll get accepted in, but the structure will be there. You know, to where you can go to a university where you're structured, then go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
You know, it's okay, you know, to go to other schools, but have your structure at an HBCU.
Exactly. Because when you go to grad school will be a breeze at those other schools because you got the foundation.
Exactly.
The foundation is strong.
I can't agree with you more on that. I mean, I think grad school was probably the highest GPA I've ever had in my life.
Me too. For real. And it was like, oh, because that's the funny part about it. I didn't really learn. I don't hope this doesn't sound crazy, but I didn't really learn how to read till after Morehouse.
Wow.
And I think you do college, but after I went through college, like, oh yeah, I need to read that book again. All the books that were on the reading list, those were hobby books. You know what I mean? They weren't the books in school. They weren't so much so like stuff like Iceman Inheritance, ISIS Papers. They weren't academic books. They was like, oh, I need to read that just for GP. You know, Metal Nature. I'm gonna read that just on GP. You know, you think that's what I mean by learning how to read. Things that they suggested as academic. No, homie, that was soul food.
Exactly. Yeah. So please look at the links in the chat or look at the links that are provided on the post. Please support Mr. Furness. I know he taught me how to say his name, but it kind of
like... You got to say it before we go.
I'm trying. It's not Mikhail. Mikhail.
Close. Mikhail.
I said Mikhail.
I heard call.
It's It's the accent. It
I'm
blaming
gonna
on
be petty, man. Petty Murphy. I'm Petty Murphy sometimes. Come on, man.
Lord Jesus. Well, I appreciate you, and I am looking forward to getting a physical copy of the
Yes,
book.
man.
I want mine signed though. If I order
I
it, I
got
want
you. It will be. I got you. I got you. I got you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. But thank you so much for this. It's been a very fun experience. Look forward to speaking with you again. But thanks again for this opportunity.
Yes, again, you have it here, Mr. Furness and his wonderful books. Please support this brother. He's even have a preview. If you look in the chat, I'll probably drop it again. And he also has a video. He have a web page.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't just promoting for himself today. He also has his brother's book in the background.
Yeah.
It's kind
After
of
the snap.
After the Snap.
After the snap. MagnificentBrothersPress.com. A Different House. My Morehouse Experience.
Did you? Okay, you got everything. No.
And then we have coming up Legends of the House coming up.
Legends
That'll be out in 3 weeks, and Legends of the Force will be out in 2 months.
Legends of the Force. I can't wait. I definitely. Well, I'll probably get all of them, but they can purchase the books on the site. You had a comment coming in.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you going live for our scholars.
Thank you for having me.
So yes, look forward to seeing some amazing things. Like I said, I'm following you on all platforms.
Thank you. I'm following you guys too. I'm seeing the work that you're doing. I saw your stuff last weekend, so I would definitely stay abreast and be commenting and tapping in with you. Maybe there's some stuff we could do down the line because it's all for the kids. So that's the most important thing.
Always, hey, we can collaborate and come with some stuff. You even taught me some stuff offline as far as the book thing goes, because I'm not established as you. I have 2 books, but you know the process. So yeah, we can link together definitely.
Yes, iron sharpen iron. Like I said, whatever I don't know, we figure it out. So that's how we all build. I'm not too proud to say I don't know, because I'm always willing to learn. So I think that's all part of success too. It's constantly being a learner.
Awesome. Awesome. So without further ado, this has been Let's Talk About It. I know we're on a different day. We usually come on Sunday, but I could not let this opportunity pass me by with this established, wonderful, successful Morehouse graduate. So we will see you on Sunday. Also, please keep in mind, if you have not registered for the HBCU send-off, you still have time. If you want to support, scan the flyer, and it will take you to that information. So see you later. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.